Once more, please.
Oh no, I'm fine. I like cry almost every single time I talk.
So how are you guys doing? That was pretty cool. All three of those things are fascinating projects. And Tria's note around the shaping of media narrative and the timing, I think, was a really good part of this. We are going to need that mic over there. Where did that mic go? Is it there? Do you guys just want to hand this back and forth as it goes? Will it reach you, Katie? Oh, yeah. Yes. You want to move a little bit this way, or are you okay? Okay, I'm going to get this started. So we're all feeling good. We've seen some amazing work from the three of you, and I kind of want to talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, which is impact. And I'm just kind of curious from your kind of point of view, like, how do we measure impact? How do the campaigns that you guys worked on, have impact? And what do you think the kind of next stage is for your campaign? Who wants to take that first?
I'll take that. So one way I would answer that is if I was trying to ask for funding, which would be around numbers. So people taking action, open rates on emails, that type of thing, as well as like the media and like how people are responding to the narrative you're putting out there. But secondly, like I think, at least with the work that ShitHarperDid and leadnow, because we worked fairly closely together as well, like I think over the period, the last 8 months, like how people are engaging in politics in Canada has changed hugely. And I think a lot of that is because of the work we're doing. And others, and others. But like I think specifically around the election, I feel like that was like a very, the narrative that both ShitHarperDid and leadnow did, like put out there, changed the way people think about their ability to engage in politics. So that can't really be measurable. And then sometimes every once in a while we win, too. So leadnow we've actually been able to see some wins on campaigns, which is always really nice.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that we always sort of default to when people are asking us about impact is we just say numbers. So say like, yeah, we had 5 million people look at the site, but it can be really misleading because there's unique visitors, there's a million different ways to skew stats like that. But I think you bring up a good point. What I experienced for the first time ever actually during this election was a disparate crew of people that I am in various relationships with all got together and paid attention to, like, watch TV. They all hung out in the same place and were completely engaged in the electoral process on the day. I mean, it was really depressing to be there and watch those seats just fly out, but it was something that I had never experienced before, and a lot of my close friends were, like me, growing up, basically apolitical. Like, I don't know, it's Canada, everything's pretty much fine. We don't really have any real problems, but that's not true, and it's something that needs to be, that attitude needs to be addressed. And something that I tell people a lot is that whenever I've been traveling in Western Europe is a place where it's not out of the ordinary to run into somebody that understands, and young people especially, that understands how people are elected in their city and in their country and why and what the impact is of that. But here it seems like it's opaque and it's almost a dirty word. It's like, oh, who are you voting for? People are just like, whoa, 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 whoa. So to see people changing their attitude towards that, to see people understanding that it's not only, I mean, it's your civic duty, etc., etc., etc. It's the responsibility of a citizen to participate in that process, but for it to be something that people are willingly talking about, are willingly engaging with one another over cups of coffee, over beers, over Twitter, and over Facebook. I mean, and Facebook isn't as good. The trolls are hungry on the internet, but I think that was one way that we were able to measure impact, at least this time around. I mean, there's a problem with things like clicktivism, right? Like you get the idea of, yeah, sure, I'll support that. Click, I'm done. I can fold my arms and go have a sandwich. But it's the more you start that dialogue, whether or not people hit the streets, whether or not people are interacting outside of the online world, the more that becomes something that pops up in someone's Twitter feed, that pops up in someone's Facebook feed, then that dialogue is furthered, whether or not you can measure it finitely, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Katie?
Well, I opened with my measure of success, which was Margaret one day taking a swipe at me.
I'm a real success.
Yeah, you're the most successful person in this room. Before I go on, I have to admit that I failed to recognize Sarah Bush, who was one of our other organizers. On May 15th, when we turned the corner onto Granville and there were no buses to be seen, I thanked God for Sarah Bush, who had worked with TransLink, who said that they would not heed to our request to shut down the buses. And she pushed them, and we managed to actually have our route cleared, which was extraordinary. And that kind of leads into what my measure of success is. I felt like the wizened old man in the SlutWalk movement, because the majority of the people who were organizing, this was their first time that they had ever done anything like this. And I think that's a measure of success. When people who aren't, you know, the usual suspects hear a call to arms and are like, yeah, I'm totally going to do this. I'm going to get my friends out to the street and we're not going to stand for this anymore. That to me is an incredible measure. At the after party for our event, I was working the front door, or the front counter for a while, and I was having these young girls come up to me, you know, 19 plus, but you know, younger participants saying, you know, my friend brought me out today, and I've never gone to a protest before, and I'm so excited to be involved, and thank you so much. And that, to me, you know, it's not ranking in the thousands for our community, but I know that internationally that's what SlutWalk has done. It has woken up a new generation who now recognizes more fully their capacity to make change. What I think was amazing about SlutWalk was that when we sent out the email to invite people to do the organizing in Vancouver, a lot of people wrote back and said, oh yeah, my friends and I have been talking about this. And I think so often we limit our own capacity and we fail to recognize how possible it is for us to stand up together. And I think that for me it was a nice reminder of that I was capable of coming together with my community to demonstrate resistance.
Wow, great, thanks you guys. I'm anxious to get some feedback from some questions out here, and it looks like, Chris, you have a question. If I could do this, if I could ask you all, say your name, and say if your question is directed at any one particular person, and keep it brief.
My name's Chris Clausen, directed at all three of you. Speaking as an old media and communications hound, I am just so encouraged and just love your energy. Fantastic. So the other elephant in the room is money. Are you making any, and are you getting any? How do you support what you're doing?
For SlutWalk, we made the tough decision to not institutionalize because SlutWalk Vancouver was concerned with turning the rally into a yearly thing and what that would mean for the weight of it. You know, if SlutWalk's what we do every May 15th, does it have the same impact, or is it just kind of a hollow marker? So we looked for one-time donations. We opted to not start a bank account. That's not the model that SlutWalk Toronto has done, and I know that they've managed to rally community support throughout the year. But ours was just a very committed fundraising organizer who managed to shake some dimes out of a couple of willing pockets.
We made the decision basically at the outset of ShitHarperDid to not monetize it at all. If there was ad revenue coming in through the site, we felt that it would have sabotaged the message in a huge way. Now, that being said, if we had AdWords, we would have made $100,000. But we don't like to think about that so much.
Next year.
Yeah. I guess part of the plan for the next iteration of it is to register as a nonprofit, and then what we can do is have a section of the website that just said, are you interested in donating? Then that's something that's available to you. I mean, the Elections Canada actually got at us after the election, and they were trying to shake us down a little bit because they were convinced that we had spent thousands and thousands of dollars putting the thing together. Truth be told, we did it for $36. It was just hosting, and none of us did anything, and they couldn't believe that. So, and they didn't believe that. They didn't. There was a story that came out that said, people can claim they didn't spend anything on their campaigns, but we were certain that they did. Anyway, the point is that it's not, we don't need millions of dollars to make something like this run. And with a decent crowd base, which we now have, we have our Facebook, I haven't checked it recently, but it's like 35,000 people or something like that. But if people are giving $2, $5 or whatever, there's more than enough money to keep something like that rolling. Whether or not we can have that as our full-time career is another story, but to keep it going as a sort of a singular campaign, there's the possibility for that. In the meantime, we've been really lucky. A couple of people that were involved in various levels with the Tides Foundation have been doing donation stuff. So our operating costs have been managed to be covered. But I think there's huge, huge potential in just asking people for whatever they can spare. And we look at Wikipedia, that's how they're running things. But Kickstarter, I think, is an excellent example of that. And that was sort of the way that we began this idea. Kickstarter, if anybody's not familiar, is this website where you write a pitch for an idea you've got. So say like, all right, I want to create a bus that takes you to the beach during the summertime. I need $15,000 to buy a bus. So people donate. If you make the money, if you hit your target within a certain amount of time, then they're on the hook to donate that money. And if you miss it, no one pays a dime. So, but what we were seeing on that is people with relatively simple ideas raising like $5 million over the course of 8 days, that kind of thing. It's really, it shows.
I have not seen that.
It's awesome.
Yeah, you should send that link around.
Yeah, okay. In any case, and it's for all kinds of stuff, but there's like, there's a guy that invented a watch strap that holds an iPod Nano, and you can buy it for $20, but people were donating like $40 to this sort of thing, and he made $2 million in a week. He was asking for 20 grand. But the point is that it's easy to solicit small amounts of money from people, and the idea of philanthropy is something that's changing. So average people are in a position where they can give. If the barrier for entry is 50 cents, $1, anybody can do that. And when you get internet volume of that sort of thing, then all of a sudden you make real money. So yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of faith in that, and I think that it's well, whatever. We're hedging our bets on it, so let's hope.
Oh, money. So I guess Lead Now differs because we're a national run organization that has staff and would like to be able to hire more, specifically for translation. So we're constantly doing fundraising, and Lead Now is a lot of major donors, but also have an individual giving plan if anyone wants to get involved supporting our work. Thank you for the opportunity to make a pitch. It's also coming up to Christmas, so it's a great gift. You gotta make asks like that sometimes.
Absolutely.
So if you're gonna put an organization, so yeah.
Okay, and it's really interesting too with what Cam was saying, that there's also Indiegogo, which is another place that you can do crowdsource funding for all you folks out there that are looking to start a campaign, and they don't actually, if you miss your target, they'll still you'll get what you've raised. And the other note about Tides Canada too is it's a really great organization that can collect money, give charitable receipts, and then provide that money to a project rather than a particular nonprofit. So again, in the folks out there that might want to start their own campaign, these are ways that you can finance something that you're doing. So great for that. I'm really kind of curious, before I get back to another question in the crowd, just to talk a little bit about, really when we were thinking about what I call this kind of digital ecology, where a lot of people have their kind of website at the center, and there are all these different parts to it, like a regular ecology that are different things. So your Twitter, your Facebook. And a lot of it's sort of like kind of smartly managing those pieces all together. And I wonder if each of you could pick, we've talked a little bit about it, but pick the platform that you thought did the most for you, and maybe speak a little bit about how other campaigns might leverage similar.